Hello fellow readers and readresses. This video is long coming. I planned on filming it initially in late November and then mid-December and then at the end of December. And here we are today, the 13th of January, and it will be yet a few more days before you get to see it. But it will be worth it. Maybe. Why this whole thing took so long is because throughout this time I couldn't put my finger on what my goals for 2025 were going to be, and in hindsight that should have been enough to tell me what they should be. I know that makes pretty much no sense, and that's only partially unintentional. I'll explain in a bit. But first, we talk about sexy stuff. Let's travel back to 2024 and allow the numbers to tell us a story. According to my reading diary spreadsheet, last year I read 91 books for a total of 37,959 pages. Out of those, to no one's surprise, my most read genre was fantasy with 39 books, followed distantly by mystery and thriller with 11, and classics and sci-fi with 9 each. My best reading month in terms of number of books read was May with 11, but in terms of pages read, it was October with 3,747. Now that we have the dry numbers, let's look at the goals that I set for myself last year. Read 60 books in 2024. Have 60% of my read books be from my own TBR, buy only physical books I care for, unhaul books, don't take too long between books from the same series, and have 20 series in progress by the end of the year. I'm laughing here because I think we all know where that's going. Starting with goal number 1, read 60 books in 2024. As we already saw, I crushed that, and that's no surprise because I already knew I could read at least 5 books reliably each month, which is what it takes to read 60 books a year. When it comes to goal number 2, have 60% of my read books be from my own TBR, looking at my reading stats, out of the 91 books that I read, 67 were owned and 27 were borrowed, which means that almost 74% were books that I already owned, and I find that rather satisfying. Another goal achieved. Buy only books I care for. Now this one is a bit more ambiguous and not entirely quantifiable, being that care is a subjective and fickle feeling prone to change. But I can honestly say that in 2024 I have bought no books fueled solely by FOMO. Whatever I bought was because I either really wanted it or because it was recommended to me by somebody I know and respect. Literally no regrets here, so I guess we can consider this goal to be achieved. Unhaul books. Also not a quantifiable goal. As a manager, I find this lack of measurability in the goals that I set to be extremely embarrassing, so feel free to shame me in the comments down below. But technically, I didn't hold books, and for the first time too, I had never gotten rid of a book in my entire life prior to it, and landing a book to a friend who doesn't return it afterwards doesn't count. Maya. In case you're wondering, Maya was a friend of mine from 20 years ago who borrowed Little Women and never returned it. But as you can see, I have totally gotten over it. Anyway, I didn't hold books, I think around 20, which is only slightly less than the books that I purchased in 2024, and I count that as a massive win. Don't take too long between the books from the same series, yet another shamefully ambiguous goal. But somehow I know that I failed here. There are so many series that I should have already finished and that I wish that I had, and I know with certainty that I take too long, which can be proven easily by the fact that a few times I had to go back and reread book number 1 from a series in order to be able to continue it. So definitely a fail. And for the last and most hilariously unrealistic goal here, have 20 series in progress by the end of the year. Let me tell you, we aren't even close. Hell, we're not even halfway there, because as of right now, I have 49 series in progress. So clearly I have failed, and on the face of it, things look pretty bad. But considering that last year I had 75 series in progress, I think I should get some credit for reducing the number. Granted, a big chunk of that was done by DNFing series, but I think deciding to cut one's losses and removing burden from one's shoulders should gain some points, especially when one is by nature incapable of leaving things unfinished. In this scenario, 1 is me, in case that's not clear. So despite the fact that the goal is clearly failed, I still feel somewhat proud of it. And out of the 6 goals, 4 were achieved, which isn't that bad at all. But that's all in the past, and now it's time to look into the future. Except every time I tried to do that, look into the future that is, I felt a bit stuck. And that's not because I don't want to achieve things. There's plenty in my life I wish to improve. But when it comes to reading specifically, to be perfectly candid, I feel pretty good about where I am. And sometimes I even feel like I do too much. Quality over quantity has been a principle I have strived to adhere for the past decade maybe, but when it comes to reading specifically, I think I have been unwittingly influenced by the desire to reach higher numbers. I think it's human nature to strive to do better than one has done before. It's kind of inevitable. But being aware of that, I really don't care to do higher numbers anymore. I don't want to strive to read 100 or 120 books because that will likely mean sacrificing the enjoyment of reading and the time for contemplation afterwards, and none of that sounds appealing to me. That's not to say that I will intentionally be trying to avoid reaching those numbers, or that if you're striving to do that, there's something wrong with you. It goes without saying that we're all different people with different time, taste, and capabilities, and how we choose to do things is your own business. And I say it goes without saying, but I'm still saying it because I wish to be understood. I know my limits. I know what I enjoy. I know when reading stops being fun, and above all, my goal is to preserve the joy of this hobby. So for a change, this year, I want to stay mostly the same. As such, my first goal for 2025 is I want to read 60 books before the end of the year. As I've previously discussed, I know for a fact that I can do it comfortably, and I'm only putting the number out there as something to measure. To continue this trend, goal number 2 is I want to have 60% of my read books be from my own TBR. Same as last year as well. This allowed me to strive for completing my physical TBR whilst having some flexibility to read whatever I want. Goal number 3. I want to have 20 series in progress by the end of the year. Yes, I am doing it again. 3rd time's the charm, I've been told. For those of you who are newer here, I've set this goal for the first time back in 2023, I think. I know it's going to be tough, pretty much impossible as is, but this can be my shoot for the stars so you can hit the moon type of thing. Not sure that's the actual phrase, but you know what I mean. Goal number 4. Read at least one book from each genre in my reading diary. This isn't actually my idea. A friend of mine came up with it last year, and I think it's a lovely thing to strive for, so I'm stealing it. And goal number 5, unhold 25 books in 2025. Yes, I am doing it again, except this time I am putting a number to it. And I think if I do 5 to 8 unhold reading experiments this year, it can work out perfectly. I am determined to get rid of more books this year because honestly, I own way too many that don't represent me as a reader. That's a fancy way of saying that I couldn't care less about these books, and I can't wait to shovel them out of my house so that I can make space for the ones that actually excite me. And this is motivated by the exact same reasons I outlined in great detail in my last year's reading goals video. In addition to those goals, I also created a new TBR jar which contains your favorite books as outlined in my last TBR video. This is to allow me to spare some time to get to know what you like most and also likely broaden my horizons. One last semi-goal for this year is related to the series I will be prioritizing. Yes, out of the 49 I already have going on. So in 2025, I decided to focus mostly on the following ones: Powder Mage by Brian McClellan, Full Metal Alchemist by Hiromu Arakawa, The Expanse by James S.A. Corey, Remembrance of Earth's Past by Cixin Liu, The First Law World by Joe Abercrombie, Empire of the Wolf by Richard Swan, Odd Thomas by Dean Koontz, and Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Now that's not to say that I won't be touching any other series before I finish these ones. I just have them pulled out here so that I can remind myself to pick from them whenever there is a reading choice to be made. By the way, all of this, as well as the TBR jar part, would make much more sense if you're familiar with my TBR game, The Lord of the Reeds. And one final note, I would like to take the time to talk about something I'm asked about relatively often, and that is why I never talk about channel goals, such as how many subscribers I want to achieve, etc. And the answer to that is very simple and consists of 2 parts. The first is that that's not something that I can control. And you can say, well, you can't control how much you're gonna read, right? Things can happen. And that is true, but reading is something that I do, something that I can decide to put more effort into and reach the numbers if I'm determined enough. When it comes to subscribers, I can't decide how many people are gonna see my videos, how many people are gonna like them, how many of them are gonna decide to subscribe. And yes, I can obviously influence that by posting more often and videos on more attractive and current topics, but here comes part 2 of the answer. Just like reading, this channel is a hobby for me. I make the videos that I want to make as often as it pleases me. I don't want to film things just because it will bring more views. And it's not that I don't appreciate people watching or that I don't care if they do. I'm as vain as they come, but it's important when we do something to know why we do it. And I bother with this particular waste of time because I enjoy it. Every video that I've made, I've had fun making. Well, except maybe the last TBR, which was legit nightmare, and I'm only half joking. Bottom line is, I don't want to set channel goals because this channel has already achieved all I was ever hoping it would, and frankly, way more. I would be very happy to see it grow, but I'm also happy as is. And here, I put an end to this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Though I have some homework for you. I want you to answer the following question. If you had to read only one book this year, which one would it be? And if it's already out, why aren't you reading it right now? If you feel so inclined, I would be very happy to read the answer to the first part of this question in the comments down below. The second one is mostly for you, though I wouldn't mind reading that too. Thank you so much for watching, and if you'd like to see my most anticipated releases of 2025, check out this video. Bye!